Expect that in this particular discussion, we will be dealing with technicalities that cover multiple products for alkenes. But before we do that, we must first clarify, okay, what it means when I have an asymmetric or a non-symmetric alkene or a non-symmetric reagent. Because the only time that I can apply this so-called Markovnikov's rule, the ever so important Markovnikov's rule, is if I know what asymmetric means in the first place. Well, from the word itself, asymmetric means not symmetric, meaning if I try to cut a certain alkene or reagent into half, it's not equal. So let's have examples here at the left side, and then let's evaluate if the example is symmetrical or not. First, for this alkene, if I split this into half, I will have two products, wherein, in both cases, the vinylic carbon on both sides is actually the same. This carbon, for example, is attached to two carbons, so we can say this is secondary. And then the other carbon from the right side also is attached to two carbons beside it, so it is secondary. And that means that this one is actually symmetrical. That means that whatever Markovnikov's rule means, as I will discuss later, it doesn't apply to this example. How about this example? Now, if we have the double bond here, I try to split this into two, and then observe, are my vinylic carbons the same? Well, at first glance, okay, and this is easy. At first glance, you should already have the idea that, well, it's not. Okay? Because if you look closely at this carbon is only attached to the other carbon beside it, right? So this one is a primary carbon, but this one is attached to an extra carbon here, so this is secondary. So since the two vinylic carbons are not even the same, this is an asymmetric alkene. How about the cycloalkene? So if I try to look at my double bond, this carbon right here, based on its type, it's attached to three carbons, as you can see, right? Three carbons. This is a tertiary carbon. And then the carbon here on the upper part is only attached to two carbons, so it's secondary. They are not the same, so this is also asymmetric. So hopefully you're already starting to get an idea of what asymmetry looks like in alkenes. How about in reagents? It's actually very easy. In order for you to understand this, I assume you have already went through my first recording on the reactions of alkenes, and we noticed that what we always do to our reagents is we split it into two. Like for example, when we split hydrogen gas into two, it would be hydrogen and another molecule of hydrogen. Every time that you have two exact things coming up from the splitting of a reagent, then we call this symmetrical. How about KMNO4? Remember that in mild oxidation, which is the reaction we discussed, one of the reactions we discussed before, what we attach in the product are two molecules of OH. And therefore, since I know that KMNO4 will give me two pieces of the exact same thing, then it is also a symmetrical reagent. But if I have HCl, we already know this way too many times. If I split HCl into two, I will get one piece of, oh, what happened? I will get, I need to zoom out. Yeah. I would get one piece of H and one piece of Cl. Since H and Cl are not the same, then HCl, for example, is asymmetric. Or for example, in the reaction that I have on the right, we use water. And remember, isn't it that water can later on split into one piece of H and one piece of OH? Because these two are not the same, I can also say that water is another example of an asymmetric reagent. So now, what's the deal? There are cases that if I have an alkene that is asymmetric with a reagent that is asymmetric, I can have two or more products. Like for example, analyze the reaction we have here on the right. Let me just clear up some things. Okay. Let's say I have this alkene right here, Now, if I ask you, is this symmetric or not? And of course, you can already see clearly this carbon is not the same type of carbon as this other one, so this is an asymmetric reagent. And I just told you a while ago that my reagent is also asymmetric. Now, what's the big deal with that? Isn't it that what we're gonna do usually is we're gonna, diba, first thing, we're gonna remove the double bond, and then you know that from H2O you will get one H and one OH. Then you're gonna attach them to these two carbons a while ago that had the double bond. But now, wouldn't you agree that if I put my OH here, that would be different as compared to if I put my OH on this carbon, right? The other one would have my OH at number 1, this one would have my OH at number 2. And this is what you are actually seeing in this rightmost side of my slide. In fact, I already indicated that, for example, this product is what we call the minor product, and this product is the major product. Obviously, when you say that something is a major product, it is the more dominant or the more frequent or the more probable product of the two. Sometimes it can even be three or more possible products, but the major one is the most, let's say, prominent or the most uh, abundant one. So now our next job is to explain why is it that the one I have below is the major product and not the one above. The rule that it can explain that is the so-called Markovnikov's rule. And for purpose of clarity, I actually took two different versions of the exact same rule and notice that the wordings for the Markovnikov rule in my version 1 and my version 2 are not close at all. They're very, very different. But I'm trying to say here that despite that, they actually mean the same thing. So let us try to interpret this properly in order to confirm that version 1 and version 2 statements are actually the same statement. First, version 1 says that for HX, in this case, my HX is H2O, right? Because it's H with OH. The H, which is this one, is added to the carbon with more H's. Now think about it. If you go back to the alkene, how many H's does this carbon have hiding? Only one, right? How about this carbon? How many hydrogens are hiding here? We have two. Of course, this is under the assumption that I already know you know how to count how many hydrogens are hiding. That's very basic. And therefore, since the carbon here has more H's, notice that in my major product, that same carbon is also the carbon where I add my H, which is the essence of version 1. But let's try to use the second statement. So this is version 2. It mentions that for HX, and we're going to focus this time on the X, the X is added to the more stable carbon. Really? Let's try to analyze our starting material again. Now, let's not count the H's. So, this is the vinylic carbon on the left, and this is the vinylic carbon on the right. We know that this carbon, since it's attached to two other carbons, is secondary, and this carbon is only attached to one carbon, so this is primary. Now, if you are asked, which is more stable? Is it primary or secondary? Remember that the order of stability is tertiary is more stable than secondary is more stable than primary. So therefore, I know that secondary is more stable than primary. And thus, version 2 says that here, in this carbon, is where I should add the X. Remember, in your reagent water, the X is represented by OH. So it's as if saying you're gonna add this OH to this carbon. And in our major product, isn't that what we see? So here, I actually showed you that both version 1 and version 2 lead to this structure, which is the structure of our major product. And actually, I really prefer version 2 because stability is a more universal basis. So we can just say that according to the Markovnikov's rule, the more stable product is the major product. And of course, you might want additional examples, so let's do that. So, first, let's focus on this example. And of course, the first things you should put your eyes upon or lay your eyes upon are the two vinylic carbons. First, you should realize that this is asymmetric. The two vinylic carbons are not the same. The one at the left is primary. The one at the right is tertiary. And according to the Markovnikov's rule, what we're going to do is we're going to add the, in this case, the OH to the more stable carbon. And since, of course, as always, we will remove the double bond first. And since this is the tertiary carbon and it is more stable than the primary one, this is the place where I put my OH. So this is the structure of the major product. Another example is this. So this is my double bond, and these are my two vinylic carbons. The one below is secondary. The one above with an extra carbon is tertiary. And I know that a tertiary carbon is more stable than the secondary. So as always, the first step is to erase the double bond. So I remove the double bond already here. And of course, in water, the X is represented by OH. And since tertiary is more stable than secondary, this is our choice carbon for the attachment of the OH. So that is the major product. And these are what we call the Markovnikov products because you're following the Markovnikov's rule. But there's actually a phenomenon that we call anti-Markovnikov, wherein some reactions follow that. For example, if I have these set of reagents, including BH3, THF, and H2O2, owing from the fact that B is boron, this process is actually called hydroboration. And what's so unique about hydroboration is that it actually gives you an alcohol. But the alcohol that it would give you is what we call anti-Markovnikov alcohols. Anti meaning whatever you expect to come out based on the Markovnikov's rule, you're gonna reverse that. For example, I'm supposed to know that this is the product a while ago following the Markovnikov's rule. Because this is the more stable carbon, this is the less stable carbon. And following the Markovnikov's, this is where I put my OH. But it's as if we're saying, if we have the anti-Markovnikov principle in hydroboration, we're gonna attach OH this time to the less stable carbon, which is this one. So, you put your OH on where we don't expect to put it in the first place. It's just like reversing the product a while ago. We get this one. Also, the same with this example below. So, although I expect that I should put my OH here if I'm following the Markovnikov's rule, because we should follow what we call an anti-Markovnikov product, instead, the other vinylic carbon will get the OH. So that is what's special about hydroboration.